Welcome back to another Advance Wars by Web replay review. And today's banger game is brought to you by a viewer. That's right, we're looking at a viewer submitted game. And you could submit your own games by messaging me on Discord, Advance Wars by Web, or using the Google form in the description. And you might get your replay reviewed on the channel. And I'm trying to review all of them. I have a backlog of replays I gotta finish up. But keep those submissions coming. It's really fun looking at replays, seeing how other people approach the game. And I just enjoy studying this game because it's a lot of fun and I have that kind of brain. But without further ado, let's get right into the action. In the red, Orange Star, we've got Idris Lion, 2-0 against me, playing as the Tier 3 waifu, Rachel. And that's right, I said it. Rachel's a Tier 3 waifu over Lash, and I regret nothing. Units repair 1 additional HP when they're on an allied repairing building. But you're still liable for costs, so it's going to cost a little more, but you get repaired quicker, which is nice. Lucky Lass increases Rachel's luck damage from 0 to 10% to 0 to 30%, and Covering Fire launches 3 missiles. If you've watched any of my past 5 videos that all featured Rachel, you already know that 1 missile targets the greatest accumulation of foot soldier HP, 1 targets the greatest accumulation of total HP, and 1 targets the greatest accumulation of unit value. Each missile does 3 damage to all units affected within its 2 square radius. And then in the bottom, we have Meower, also known as Pizzettin on the Streets, playing as the Rotund Sailor Drake. Naval units gain +1 movement and +10 defense. Sounds pretty nice, but air units lose 30% attack. Unaffected by rain, which is superpower calls the rain, but we'll get there in a second. The air units lose 30% attack is pretty bad. I mean, if your copter would do 7, bang, now it's doing 5. That is quite the reduction of damage. However, Drake copters are still not to be underestimated, as they still prove problems for enemy tanks, medium tanks, that sort of thing, and you just shouldn't underestimate them. Drake's normal power, Tsunami, deals 1 damage to all enemy units and drains half their fuel. And then superpower, Typhoon, deals 2 damage to all enemy units, drains half their fuel, and turns the weather to rain for a turn, which slows down treads and wheel movement vehicles on plains and woods. And it reduces vision in Fog of War, but here in Standard, on Advanced Wars by Web, the rain does not introduce Fog of War. Okay, so with all the fun introductions out of the way, one last introduction. So if you're new to the channel, you probably don't realize or aren't aware of the absolute just dire hatred I have for Drake, because I struggled for the longest time with that mission as a kid where it's you in Dual Strike when you're fighting Jugger and the Drake clone. I would just get absolutely annihilated on that mission repeatedly, and every time I had to see Drake's freaking muffin top as him and Jugger but tagged out, the 2 fattest COs in the game, oh my gosh, it does not bring back pleasant memories. So I just had, Drake to me is like Neo Tanks to semi-original guy. Just not a big fan. Drake is kind of shaped like a Neo Tank. So let's just roll now that we've established my feelings about Drake. Okay, so this is something I've never seen in another game. But I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad move. It's bringing the Black Boat. Usually Black Boats go here and then they transport infantry this way towards the middle. But Drake is bringing the Black Boat over here early, maybe to get the airport early, or to use it to boost an infantry down here a little earlier. I don't think boosting it down here is necessary, but maybe going for the airport early. Fair enough, you got your air units have minus 30% attack, so you must get them on the field as quickly as possible. And then we have the early recon coming out here from Rachel. This is Rachel's strong side, so Rachel definitely wants to be aggressive over here, but you got to be careful because a tank can easily just hit these kind of contested. These 2 cities are the only ones that end up really getting contested, and a tank can kind of hit them at the same time the recon can. So the early recon isn't gonna be too super useful. It is useful if you're contesting over here, but there is no infantry over there, so not really that big of a deal. And the sun is setting as I'm recording, so slowly in the background it will get darker and darker, and it's kind of a nice little effect of getting like creepier. It's like the real life version of the Mr. Incredible becoming uncanny meme. So I need to, like, in post-production, like, slowly make the video grayscale and, like, distorted as the video goes on. Just kidding. Alright. The recon is being very aggressive down here. So, okay, so I see the point with the recon. It's now contesting this, denying that, basically. So this infantry will have to capture here. Not the biggest deal. And then, yeah, the airport got started. This infantry probably going to go either to the port or go over here, and then a tank can cover. So we'll see. We'll see how... I think a tank's probably coming out from here. Oh, no, Drake doesn't have enough. But no, it's Red's turn right now, so Drake will have enough. Drake will have 12k. And, yeah, you don't want to be building a lot of vehicles on the weak side, but you might as well just build a tank here anyway, right? You're going to need a tank there at some point. You might as well counter the recon. So we'll see how much value this recon is able to get for Red. And remember, recons cost 4,000. So if you kill an infantry, then the recon gets traded by a tank. That's like a net negative of 3,000. That's why I don't really use too many recons, because I'm not good with them. And the black boat actually protects the recon, this infantry right here, from the recon as well. So good positioning there by blue. And back to Red. And going for either this city or the comm tower. This is Red's weak side, so you got to get that comm tower early, or you're not going to get it at all, is what I've learned on this map, because this base can easily just reinforce over here. A tank reaches there in 2 turns, whereas tank here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it still reaches in 2 turns, but with, like, this base is going to be overwhelmed with threats from down here and, like, through here, if that makes any sense. Hopefully it does. Okay. Recon is just going to park itself over here, try to deny this, and who knows if the tank is going to chase it or not, but... Okay, we have another backup tank over here from Red, so Red is at least forcing investments out of Blue, and then starting this cap, and then the tank is ready to trade out the recon, so basically forcing the recon to make a decision. Are you going to interrupt the cap, deny a couple thousand funds from Blue, and do, you know, 500 to 600 funds of damage for a 4,000 fund recon, or will this recon just retreat and just be a glorified infantry killer the rest of the game? Only one way to find out. And right now, Blue's preparing for a hit on this city, and maybe for one on this, and we have a tank coming out from Drake as well. We're about to see some action. A bunch of captures go through, and the recon decides to retreat. Just probably might shift over here and help out with the weak side. Maybe it's right now. Oh, it still can't cover this cap right there. So maybe the recon will shift over and help out defending here, like I said, or maybe it will just try to lock down these two and help with that. But this recon might have been a bit of an overinvestment. We got an artillery. All right. You got to respect the weak side artillery right here. And then Rachel's making the decision to not move the black boat. Because once you move the black boat off the lab, you can't move it back on the lab because the lab is like a ground tile. Right? The only building the black boat can move on is the harbor. So by keeping it on the lab, you're basically safe from all captures until all lab captures until like an artillery comes out. So the black boat being on the lab is not a bad decision, but I think the black boat would be more useful to transport an infantry to the airport. Or even down here in the middle, although like in one of my games that I'm currently losing in, I did the early infantry play and then built a recon and countered it. So, but I think you have to do something to get this airport. Especially as Rachel, like you have stronger copters. Your copters have no penalties. So you could build the copter and then counter Drake's copters with your copters. And just to show you like how much of a difference it makes, I guess it really doesn't matter who I pick for the one person, because Rachel's and Andy's stats aren't any different. Where is Drake? There he is, right in front where I can see him. Okay, so let's say copter on copter. Okay, it's like a 4-8 at worst for Rachel and a 3-9 at best. Swapping, it's like a 5. It's a 5-7 right? At worst for Rachel, it's a 5-7 if Drake gets the first attack. That's how brutal that minus 30% attack is. So I think Rachel needs to be pumping out copters and trying to get that air superiority, especially against Drake. Also, this is a big map, so it is a little easier to deflect Rachel's missiles. But units do kind of get clumped up in these, like, fighting areas, if that makes any sense. So the missiles aren't super bad. And Lucky Last can be good in a pinch to get some wall breaks. But so far, you know, we haven't seen any fighting, so everything's just kind of regrouping. Artillery now locking down the city, protected on both sides by the Black Boat and the river, so it's just kind of can camp out here on this outpost. So great positioning for the artillery right there. And the recon is now going to block for this infantry. This tank is vulnerable, but it is easily reinforced, and it's on a friendly city. So you definitely don't want to take that, because like you deal like 5 to this, and then it repairs back up to 8 because of Rachel's extra repair. So blue is definitely not pushing in. But blue is going to get the comp tower blocking with the infantry as well. And now we're about to see the fighting. Free shot over here from blue. And then red's going to have to build a tank or something over here, or else this city's going to fall in a couple turns. And the comm tower as well. So blue might be able to get both comm towers and have that 20-0 firepower advantage, which is huge. If you saw my last video on the contested base map with the comm towers in the middle, where I was able to get both comm towers, you could see in those engagements like it really makes a difference. But red is now also going to attack on the strong side. Infantry goes in, good damage, and also these infantry kind of block the tank just a little bit, hampering the movement just enough to be annoying. And then the tank reinforces. This tank edges ever closer, as well as this one. And we might see a big hit here, as red's about to threatening this. This got interrupted, so we'll see if blue can hold on to those two. And then over here, kind of same thing, same situation. Blue is up 1 property on red. Blue has this one, but red has yet to get the equivalent on this side of the map. And then blue also has the airport, and red is not even close to getting this airport. This guy is going to have to take a hike all the way, you know, over the mountain to get to the airport. So we're not going to see air units coming out from Rachel in a while. And that is, man, this light is like really making my facial features look soft. I'm not sure if that makes me look better or worse. But now red is going to make a play on this city as well. Got the artillery coverage. Black Boat blocking from behind, so nice positioning on the artillery, covering everywhere on this city. And also gets a nice recon shot there, and the artillery is covering the recon as well. So good artillery positioning there. Okay, but blue is about to go in on the comm tower. And this city as well. So blue is about to get a major property lead and not really caring about this one. Gonna lock down that one as well. And with the 2 comm tower lead, that's huge. That means with 2 comm towers, the copters for Drake will only have a minus 10% attack in total, which is going to be like massive. When we pulled up, oh, that's the move planner. When we pulled up that calculator before, right? It's a 5-7 at best for Drake. But if Drake has a 2 comm tower advantage, that's a 4-8, which, I mean, that's like a 2 HP swing, 1 on both sides, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. It is a lot. And that's why, like, these, like, global damage powers and, like, Hawk's power are, like, sometimes can be game enders, because just, like, that 1 to 2 HP difference, so it really can go a long way. Okay, so now Drake is going in over here. Might be able to get does get the interrupt. Not even scared of that artillery right there. That city has been safe for right now, but red will undoubtedly keep capping. But we got 2 tanks in the area, so the artillery's got to be careful. And there's the first copter coming out from Drake. And Rachel's not even close to building a copter. So Drake's about to dominate the skies. And Rachel's going to have to build some anti-air. Going in for some free shots. Artillery knocks this infantry down to 2. Infantry get picked off. This infantry, instead of capping, just hits that 1 HP, which allows the recon to be free and knock this infantry all the way down to 1 HP. More blocking for the artillery, and we have a second artillery as well covering this formation. So red is really going in on this weak side city, but That's as long as red can like get the equivalent over here, then it's not a problem. But red has been forced off over here in kind of a passive position, and 4 tanks to 4 tanks, and don't forget the copter as well. Red's got to make something happen over here on the strong side. Comp tower is about to go through, and this is going to get flipped in 2 turns. So Drake's going to have a massive property advantage, and then Drake can just kind of stall out the game, enjoy that that income and firepower advantage, and then pop that Typhoon. And that's really going to hurt Rachel. So Rachel's got to make something happen going in. And this is a guarantee to live with 1 HP because Rachel does not have a comm tower. And going in on this as well, again, not great when you don't have a comm tower, is 6-7. But maybe the infantry could do some chip, but decides to chip the infantry instead. Smart move there. And there's the anti-air ready to counter the copter and a tank over here as well. So Rachel is actually doing pretty good on the weak side. Except for right here. Gonna lose those basically for nothing. But it would be fine if Rachel was being strong over here. But right now, Drake is doing great in the middle game. And the comm tower gets capped, and then the fights go on, so it's good you cap the comm tower before fighting. I always make that mistake. Oh, tank goes all the way down to 1 HP, and the other vehicles move up. Nice trade there. This tank's now officially lost the fight. 4 HP on the worst terrain. And we'll see what Rachel can cook up. Goes for the 1 HP infantry sack to get I think that's a guarantee. Yeah, it is. Goes for the 1 HP infantry sack to guaranteed take this infantry out on the city, which opens up this tank to smack the artillery. Now, this artillery definitely got to do some damage to that tank there. That's not going to be pretty. But this tank too far away to counterattack, and Red's formation's now been... There's now a hole in the armor, and Blue has found it, and in fact, going in for a shot there, might as well weaken the infantry, weaken the walls. Everything else just kind of shuffles forward. Another tank and a copter, and we don't even care about that minus attack when you've got 2 comm towers buffing it. And Drake is about to really go hard even on the weak side. And Drake is just doing great here in the middle game. But that's superpower from Rachel. More than halfway charge, and those missiles could be devastating. Takes out the infantry right there, and there's the artillery taking a good shot. This artillery goes back to get healed. Don't forget about Rachel's extra healing. That's going to be a 6 next turn, and that's nothing to be sneezed at. Everything else just kind of blocks in a defensive formation. Red did not indeed get that city, but Red has no chance of getting it now. Even with the artillery coverage, does not have the units, doesn't have the infantry numbers to sustain that. And then down here on the strong side, tank goes back to get repaired. That 1 HP survival was clutch. This tank can be back in the action in 2 turns thanks to that extra repair. And I think the extra repair is really underrated. Knocking that tank all the way down to 2 HP. Everything else kind of retreat, or this guy retreats to swap out for this guy. Infantry gets taken out. And this infantry 2 turns away from the airport. So eventually Rachel will be able to pump out copters eventually. Okay, so we got the Typhoon almost online, and we've got the covering fire almost online. So the game could change in a radical way. Let's see. Infantry gets taken out. And there's the Tsunami just popping the regular power right away, dealing 1 damage and draining half of Rachel's army's fuel. Like this recon, for example, only on 12 fuel remaining. But everything that's on a city will get refueled next turn. But like this 1 HP tank, for instance, all the way down to 30 fuel. But fuel, even still, is not really that big of an issue, except for air units. And so that's why, like, that's how Drake can counter air units, is just draining them of fuel, and then you either have to bring them all the way back to the airport or build an APC. So that's an underrated air unit counter that Drake has. But you still got to be building anti-airs, because your copters are going to lose the copter battle. Don't have to build anti-airs when your opponent doesn't have the airport. Takes out this infantry right here, and that 1 HP tank is a goner. Yep, goodbye. This 8 HP tank all the way down to 1, and it's a goner as well. This 6 HP tank is just stranded now. But no other targets over here. Will Drake break over here and hit those artilleries? Nope, just has a defensive formation, brings the tanks back. and just content with trying to get this flipped right now, trying to force red to go in. No point fighting here into red's formation where all these artilleries can just start blasting, right? You want red to fight on your terms. You want to force red out of their little safety bubble and hit this, and then you counterattack. So we'll see if red decides to let that go through or just or push in. Okay, now back to red, back to Rachel. Rachel's down 2 comm towers and 3 cities, so Rachel definitely has to make something happen. Takes out the 1 HP and uses the recon and infantry. Can't quite take it out though, so the infantry survives. And okay, now the artillery is pointed at the city. Not bad positioning, and the lab black boat blocker is actually doing really, really good wonders for Rachel. This tank cannot hit the artillery, nor can this 9 HP tank get taken out. So this artillery is safe and now locks down that city. Everything else moves back over here and probably just hitting for damage, I would think. But this infantry really has no support, and Rachel's just gonna regroup. There's the anti-air moves up as well. Everything's just regrouping after that tsunami. The covering fire though is gonna be a big problem, so Rachel might be able to push into attack, and we'll see how Drake deals with this missile threat, which is now online. That reminds me of like Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, when Kai was fighting that country guy, and he's like, "My satellite cannon is almost fully charged." And that country guy is just my favorite part of Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. And as someone who watched a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Growing up, this is the funniest web parody I've ever seen. Infantry gets taken out. That does give up a tank shot, but then the artilleries might be a big problem. But Drake does not even care. "We'll do it live," he says as he takes a shot of the tank, not even caring about these 2 artilleries. Those tanks getting weakened. Now, if you want to clear this black boat, you're going to need an artillery. But I don't know if Drake's worried about that. I think Drake just wants to push the income advantage and the comm tower advantage as long as possible. Doesn't need to make a lab rush yet. And the copter is actually shifting over here and might help out with the attack. And so you might need to see an anti-air here from Rachel. Need some copter stat though. But this tsunami actually clutched city in delaying the airport. When this infantry took that 1 damage from the power, it now delayed that airport an additional turn. So this airport is just never going to get capped. So that's the power of global damage right there. This infantry didn't even harm a flea, and yet struck by the tsunami. Infantry gets taken out, and Drake is content to retreat. Not really trying to get this yet, doesn't have the infantry presence, and doesn't really need to worry about this if Drake can get the equivalent over here. And Drake's just trying to bleed out Rachel right now. And in fact, Rachel's down more than 30k in unit value. But there's the super. It does 10k of damage. And let's see where these hit. This Neo tank obviously is going to distract that value missile. And I think the foot soldier and HP missiles might have hit here. So let's see. There it is. So 1 missile hit up here-ish. 1 missile hit here. And 1 missile hit this big clump right here. So, like, this guy was, like, kind of hit by both missiles. So he's not having a good day. But that's some good damage, but here's the problem. This tank also got hit. I think 1 missile went on this guy and hit the tank. But here's the problem with the missiles, is that Rachel can't really move in and take an attack, because Rachel doesn't have the units, like, close enough to be able to hit these weakened units. So Drake can just pull back and heal and just be big chillin' over here on the right side. Now over here, yes, this tank's not going to make it. This tank, you know, is going to get shelled as well. But Drake is still big chilling. And this 3 is probably going to finish off that 2 right there. No, retreats, actually. The tank could have... Oh, but you also have to worry about the copter and the tank. Yeah. So maybe this was a losing fight. I don't know if the 3 could have taken out the 2 with super active. Okay, it would be a roll. It'd be a really tight roll, especially if this is on a high 2. But if this is a low 2, then that's guaranteed. But just going back to repair, you might as well make use of Rachel's extra repair ability. So need an anti-air or something out of here, though. That copter can start smacking artilleries. So need an anti-air from Rachel. There it is. And also just kind of regrouping over here. Yeah, the missiles did some damage, but Rachel can't really take advantage over here on the right side. just kind of grouping up. And that's not how you want to play against Drake. Drake really likes stalling matches. All global damage COs do. Because then Drake can just build up all the units, pop Tsunami or Typhoon, and then the more units on the field, the more that global damage matters. Alright, and goes in on this tank, able to take it out with copters, and the anti-air is unfortunately too far. So nice find there by Drake. And whenever this player plays against me, they play like a god and like never make that mistake. But that was unfortunately just a hanging tank right there to the copters, and you cannot underestimate Drake copters. I mean, they're not like the scariest things, right? But you can't just ignore them. And infantry in the black boat is going to get loaded as well, and so we have a nice little big wall of infantry, and we'll see if Drake is able to finally convert this city. Not that Drake has to. Drake's still up 3 cities, but you know, you can tip the scales by getting that city. Alright, a bunch of other units shuffle around. Black boat, hey, gotta repair that unit. I like that. I like when black boats repair units. And now the anti-air is closer and covering everything. So everything is at least protected over here for Rachel. But we'll see. The Neo tank also, there's no... Okay, so the artilleries are now the Neo tank counter. The Neo tank's out of range, so Rachel had to be really careful about that. That's probably why Rachel retreated. But you got to be careful about that Neo tank. But the artilleries will do significant damage to that Neo tank. I wonder how much they do to Neo tanks in cities, just because I'm curious right now. With no comm towers, it's doing 2 to 3. With one comm tower, it does a flat 3. And if the Neo tank were like on a plains with no comm towers, it's doing like 3 to 4. Okay, so 2 artilleries would definitely do a lot of damage to that Neo tank. Probably 6 to 7 or 8 HP damage, which is huge value gain for the artilleries. And now the copters just over here, twinkle toes right back over the mountain, just making this anti-air move back and forth. There's like Barry Sanders just breaking ankles over here as this artillery keeps moving back and forth, trying to deal with these copters. And maybe this airport will go through next turn though, so Rachel can pump out her own copters. Neo tank has a free shot right there, and the Neo tank can actually shift over, do a lot of damage to that black boat, and help a lab push. Yeah, it does 3 to 4 damage to the Neo tank, or to the black boat, max. But still, like, that's a lot of good damage, you know. And that's a big blocker right now that red is using. So you get rid of that black boat with like artillery, Neo tank shot, and then that lab is wide open. And then also it's no longer blocking; those artilleries are wide open as well. But everything is just going to shuffle around. The big wall of infantry again, starting this capture. Maybe, hey, 3rd time's the charm. Maybe it'll go through. The artillery is not in range to block it down. Red might sacrifice like this 4 HP, for example, to interrupt this for a turn, but blue has done a great job winning the engagements and is still up in value majorly. And these copters are just picking off units one by one, so great copter usage there by Drake. And okay, red is just gonna let this city go through. Red is now shortened the lead because the airport, but this city going through will increase that lead back up to 3 cities. There's another anti-air. This anti-air is done running around. A second anti-air has hit the field. This anti-air will go this way. Everything else just kind of shuffles around. Scared of that Neo tank. There's another artillery. So hey, you know, whatever it takes to get rid of that Neo tank. And now these cities will get started. And red just cannot let all these cities go through, or else blue will have an insurmountable income lead. But blue is just content to sit back and just take whatever cities they can, force red into a fight, and we'll see. Will red go in? Another tsunami might be in the way as well after the next fight. Need like 18k charge, 20k because you already popped the power the first time. Alright, what can Rachel make happen here? Okay, shuffling units around over there. Okay, sacrifice low HP infantry to interrupt. Everything else just sits down over here. This infantry, or this artillery is locking down that city, but there's so many units from blue over here. So many infantry can easily just drown Rachel's forces in a sea of bodies. Anti-air artillery tank, nice protection for the anti-air using the C tile to protect against the tanks. And this tank is too far, so this tank's guaranteed to live. Artillery covers, and the C tile protects the anti-air. So not a bad formation right there. And over on the other side of the mountains, kind of a cluster over here as well. But again, the anti-air is protecting everything. So the copters can't just be freeload. And finally, we see a copter out from Rachel, but Drake already had built an anti-air many turns ago, and the anti-air is ready to join the fray as well, so the copter will not have free range. And a rocket from Drake that was built last turn is going to probably nestle itself over here, cover the lab if necessary, and cover these cities as well. Maybe be able to convert this, and Red just doesn't have the infantry presence to really go in. And I think Blue is just content to shuffle around, sit back, use the income lead, just be patient, you know. We got a stall ECO with an income tower lead, so just willing to be patient. Another rocket comes out. We're about to see the rocket barrage over here. I like that. I like rockets. I think rockets are underrated, but they're really, really hard to use. And there's a lot of situations where the opportunity cost of spending 15k for a rocket is just too much. Like, that's 2 tanks right there. So if you're building a rocket, you're basically passing up on 2 tanks. And 9 times out of 10, 2 tanks are going to be better than a rocket. But I do like rockets. It goes in for the interrupt. And will we see more units? No, everything else just shuffles in, trying to dedicate as few resources as possible to this fight, while also bringing in the units just slowly marching forward on this lab. And Rachel might be going for a lab hit. I mean, you're down 2 comm towers, you're down 3 cities, or 4 cities actually. Might be 5 after this, or 6 after this gets flipped. Yep, up to 6 now that this city got flipped. So Rachel's going for probably just a last-ditch effort lab hit. And the Neo tank doesn't even care about artillery range. One-shots the tank and is able to smack this artillery and finish it off. Now these infantry go in and the walls are falling down. The copter gets a shot and tank's able to get the guaranteed KO there thanks to the extra comm tower. And the artillery that was covering the Neo tank has now been smacked. And the copter is going to do some free damage as well. Rocket moves up. Nice little blocking by this tank and the river as well. And the rocket is covering a lot of these units here. Not entirely covering these 2, right? They can still attack from here and here. Hit that one. But Red is in some trouble. And over here, content to just shuffle around, prepare for a lab hit or a city hit right here. But Drake does not need to push in, and Drake can do massive damage down here. Tsunami almost active as well. Probably going to get it this turn. I don't see why you wouldn't just continue this brawl. But there is a medium tank. The medium tank will obliterate any of these small tanks and do significant damage to that Neo tank. Tank goes in, and there's the Lucky Last. A little last-ditch effort. Lucky Last cannot get any sort of roll in that tank. Infantry takes 5 damage back, but gets the max roll on that tank, knocking it down to 7. Artillery, good damage on that tank, knocking down to 2. Anti-air, easy one-shot on the copter. Okay, can't quite get the roll there either. Goes for a roll on the Neo tank, does only 1 point of damage, and resigns as Red was getting blown off the board next turn. And Blue had the property advantage. So yeah, unfortunately Drake won the game, but it was a really nice game, and we saw like how some like kind of mispositioned units from Red and some really good copter plays by Drake were able to swing the tide over here on the right. And over here on the left, Drake did a very good job attacking and finding the wall break there earlier, but also just retreating when there was really nothing to be gained and Rachel had some good defenses. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next one.